what you need, because this guy is not. I mean, this is going to sound like a slight, but it's like you using him on inside zone. You're not. It's going to be inconsistent. You might get a 9-yard burst, but you're probably going to get 2 or 3 2-yard runs. So it's like they kind of had to be strategic about how they ran the ball in this game, and I thought they did that masterfully.
The other thing I think that if I was going to question anything about Shanahan, I think if Kyle were sitting right here, I think I would ask him, Kyle, after watching Gendo give you chunk yardage plays, he had a 30-yard run. He also had a 27-yard reception. Do you wish that you got him more touches as this season went on? Because this guy, I mean, let's be honest, guys, there aren't too many guys in pro football that have this guy's size and speed. And the fact that it's, December 8th and, we're buying, our Christmas presents and New Year's Eve alcohol already. And it's like, this guy's barely played. I just think they're, I just think they're too damn conservative with the way they kind of bring their players along. This guy wasn't in high school last year. It wasn't like this guy is a true freshman and this is the SEC. This guy played big time college football, and he's as good an athlete as there probably was in the draft. There's very few guys in the league that have this kind of size and this kind of speed. I think they should have. Whatever. I mean, what's he's had? I think Tim Ryan said it this week. He had 42 touches. Is that it? 42 touches on the year?
Yeah.
Or is that even less? Maybe even less. What does Gendo have for touches right now?
Sounds kind of high, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, that sounds high.
Let me see his
Might
stats.
be like snaps.
It might be like this was only his second career start in general. Like he didn't.
He's had 50. No, I think it's right because he had 50. He's had 57 carries. Or wait a second. No. Yeah, he's played 13 games. He's got 57 carries for his career and 7 receptions. So he had 42 carries coming in and 5 receptions. So he had 47 touches. And now he got another 17 or whatever today. So, I mean, I don't know. Do you guys think that maybe based on what we've seen here and what this guy, because not only did Gendo look good and explosive, but he caught the ball naturally. And you know why? Because he was a high school wide receiver. So he catches the ball. I just feel like if there's one thing, it's that they may have underutilized Gendo. And it's ironic as hell because you got Pearsall, who's a first-round draft choice, and he can't do anything right now. And Gendo was not a first-round draft choice, and it feels like Gendo needs they should have used him more as the season went on. I don't know, maybe I'm nitpicking, but I just feel like I see his game-breaking ability and his natural hands, and I'm like, God, you couldn't have squeezed this guy in there for a few plays because he really does give you big plays.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, back in the Jimmy G days, like a lot of their explosive plays, if it wasn't, off of play action, a lot of their explosive plays were Mostert or Breida or whoever breaking off, crazy runs. And they just didn't really have that element with Mason. I mean, I think Mason, and compared to how McCaffrey looked, like Mason might be the best runner in between the tackles on the team this year, but he just doesn't have that. He doesn't have that same breakaway speed. So I would have loved to see. I mean, I keep going back to Bucky Irving, but it's like I like the way these teams go where it's like, they've got I would have liked to see Mason going as the running back. And then, you just get when Garendo's in the game, you just get him the ball in space and just let him make a play. Also, one concern, I mean, it's already a concern because he's banged up. His foot's banged up.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty unlikely that having, whatever this was, his second start ever, that he's going to be able to hold up as just the sole running back. I'd be very wary of that. I was wary of that even with Mason. And I think we kind of saw that, he was so good. And then there hit a point after maybe game 4 or 5 where it was Mason really hasn't looked the same as he did at the beginning of the year. So I like the idea of mixing it up. I mean, they don't have any, I know people keep wanting Cowing to get run. I mean, I kind of do too, just because, like, there was that one game where they threw the screen to him and it looked great because at least he's got speed. But they need to manufacture that somehow. I think they need to get Pearsall going early in this next game.
What do you think, Raj and Kev? Why is Pearsall? Brock makes it seem like Pearsall, like it's just like it's gonna click. It just hasn't yet. But what do you guys think? I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, I don't want to say is he a bust because that's just too harsh. It's too early. It's not giving the guy enough grace. It's not giving the guy enough time. But man, I mean, I really was expecting that Pearsall would. I really thought that the advantage of Pearsall was that he was polished and that he could step in and help them right away. And it just hasn't been the case.
Kind of McConkey-ish.
Yeah. What do you think?
I know, I agree. I think we all want to see Pearsall step up, but we love the story. He had a good game against the Bucks. Like, he kind of got some momentum, but a couple things there that you guys hit on. Obviously, the rookies with Gendo. Kyle has to trust the rookies. I think first and foremost, he has to trust you, right? I mean, obviously they drafted a wide receiver. They probably trusted him going into the draft, but also too, he's made a few mistakes. He ran a route, wrong ways a couple times. I know Kyle last week, he mentioned that he was Pearsall was banged up after the Green Bay game, so that might have played into it. But I just think that Pearsall, I love the guy. I think he has talent, but it's a little fragile. He's like me, skinny Raj out there, running out there against these big NFL guys. And I think that's one thing that limits him. He needs to bulk up this offseason. He's a little, I don't want to say fragile, but he definitely seems to kind of get pushed around out there. And I think that's something he needs to work on. But I just think also too, he's not the first option. The 49ers are going to look through George Kittle first and foremost, which tonight, finally, they found out and they realized George Kittle can catch the damn ball. You need to get him the ball. And then you have a guy like Juwan Jennings, who's so physical. He's so aggressive. I think Kyle wants that aggressive nature. And, took Juwan Jennings a couple years to kind of get to that point. First year, he had the hamstring injury. Then he only scored 7 touchdowns in his career up till this year. This year, he has 6 touchdowns. He's going crazy. So it takes a little time for guys to kind of catch up in Kyle's system. But, yeah, Juwan Jennings is a baller. And you want to see, Ricky Pearsall do that because he was a first-round pick. This is the first-round pick they had in a long time, 3 years. We said this on Tuesday, Larry. I said, get this man the ball. But when they try to, it just seems like he's not on the same page with Brock. So I think there's part of that as well, little chemistry going on. I agree with what you said. Get him involved early. But I also, too, there's so many other things they have to do first. Get the run game going. You got to get Kittle involved. And then by the time you think about Pearsall, it's like a game's getting in the thick of it. He might not have enough, connection with Brock by that point. So I feel like it's just going to take him time to kind of get his footing on this offense. But I want to see him going. I'm happy that Gendo went well. Hopefully the foot's good. But overall, I want to say this was Kyle and the 49ers. This is the best game. Like, they ran a great scheme today. Shout out to Kyle. I think he heard all the nonsense out there, and he really responded. I mean, you asked him the question, and he said, "What? These rumors are silly. This is the place I want to be." So, a shout out to this offense. They really stepped up.
On no Ricky, doubt. Real quick. I understand. Like, right now, it's like this is the low point for Ricky in his career. Like, like the public perception of Ricky, assuming, unless it gets worse, it's at the lowest point it's going to be. It's for the last 4 games he's gotten 1 catch, and it was for 5 yards. It's not a good look, especially from a first-round pick. Now, I still think
he's got a great attitude. You heard Kittle say that. He's like, "Hey, man, this guy's got he's got the right attitude. He's just not producing right now."
Like, I'm going to keep that in my mind when I'm making like a prediction on him. I think he's still going to be a solid wide receiver. I think the problem, or not really the problem, but the issue is that he got drafted and then 3 receivers went after him. So he's always going to be compared to those receivers. And in my mind, he's not going to be as good as those receivers. I think that the Niners, if they want, for the type of player that Ricky Pearsall is, they should have gone for Lad McConkey. And I know that's like hindsight's 20/20, but let's think about it. Ricky Pearsall played in the college for 5 years. He played to the best of his ability, and he really only had 1 really good productive year in his last year of college. So it's kind of like the Ronnie Bell situation, even though it's completely different, where it's like Ronnie Bell was the best receiver he possibly could have been when the Niners drafted him. Like, he was a polished receiver. He was as good as he was going to get. And I fear that Ricky may be kind of in that boat where it's like, he played for 5 years. He is who he is, and he's just going to be solid. He's not going to be he's not going to be insane. He's not going to be next level. And I think someone like Ladd McConkey had the speed. He has the change of direction. He has the cutting ability that separates you from being a good receiver to being a very productive, like next level, number one type of player in the NFL. And I worry that Ricky's more of just a utility slot, solid player with like the highest potential being like an Adam Thielen type.
Hey, one last thought before we get out of here. We really have not talked about a guy who had a huge game and is an enormous talent, and that's Yetur Gross-Matos. Yetur Gross-Matos, guys, is a big, talented guy. I mean, he always has had kind of blue chip ability going back to Penn State. He had 3 sacks tonight, 4 tackles, 4 solo tackles, 3 sacks on the quarterback. Him and Floyd combined for 5 sacks. I mean, man, the Niners so desperately need guys to step up and be heard from. And if Yetur Gross-Matos wants to be that guy, that's fine with me.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice. I just immediately I get dubious. They're in a game where they're up, 30-10. The guys are it's free to just tee off, I want to see those guys kind of step up in a more competitive game, to be honest. That's
how much of it was Caleb you're thinking, you mean?
Yeah.
Like Caleb holding the ball.
And it's just the game script. Like, they're not going to run the ball. You're just teeing off at that point.
The Chiefs just won on a doink.
Yeah.
God damn it.
They set up for a game-winning field goal. It doinks. It hits the crossbar, but it goes in.
Of course.
Matthew Wright.
But what was the final score?
Matthew Wright is just ice cold when he's not on the Niners. That's a lie. When he was on the Niners, he made his field goal.
Good. 19-17 Chiefs. What? How did they keep getting away with this?
It's disgusting.
I covered. I had Chargers. I had Chargers to the under. On the teaser. Couple last supers here, or one last super. We got this one from Savage. _ AF24. He says, I like Brock Purdy, but do you think we should pay Brock Purdy $60 million and he can't throw in the rain or the snow? How do you guys come to grips with the fact that Brock does have problems gripping the ball, a wet ball, and yet his free agency is upon us, really? And how do you come to grips with that? I mean,
he's not playing in Cleveland.
It's California, baby.
He's playing in Cali. Someone in the comments said prorate him on the rainy games. Maybe you could do that, but majority of the games you're playing in Cali, so I don't think that you need to worry about that. But I don't think $60 million is the move. That's one thing I will say. Don't give him $60 million, but I'm happy to have Brock as the franchise quarterback.
What would you want to pay him? Because here's the thing: if you said, what is he? What's market value? His agent is Kyle Strongton out of Nashville. I think Kyle's going to look at Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa and say somewhere between 50 and 55, Brock's got to be there. That's my guess. It's probably
50, 55.
Yeah. We got this one. Jeff says, Larry, what do you think of Walter Nolan? I love Walter Nolan. Are you kidding me? Jeff says, Larry, who are some of your favorite players in this class for the Niners? Walter Nolan, Kelvin Banks, Tyler Booker. Booker's a guard for Bama. Banks is a tackle for Texas. But Walter Nolan is to me, the 49ers have to come out of this next draft with 2. I was talking to Tim Ryan about this in the pregame. If you're going to run this wide 9, the wide 9 funnels everything back inside to the tackles. If you're going to run the wide 9, you absolutely have to have the 2 big war daddies in the middle that are really, really dominating players that can come off of blocks and play the run, because everything's funneled inside towards the defensive tackles. If they get wired on blocks, they can't play. Walter Nolan is a tremendous player. He wears number 2 for Ole Miss. In the Egg Bowl the other day against Mississippi State, he had 8 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. He's a tremendous player. And he's probably going to be a pick in the 20s. So he'll be on the board for the 49ers when they pick in the first round. And I don't think I would look too much beyond this guy. He's a junior. He's 6'3", he's 305 pounds. He's a big war daddy inside, though. He's strong. He's fast. He's got great get off. Yeah. If I could get Walter Nolan, I'd be more than happy to start my draft with Walter Nolan. And then we got this one from Jeff, who says, Larry, who are some of your favorite
Just read
players in
that.
this
You just
draft?
read that.
Oh, okay, got that one. Oh, we got this one down here. Mon Green Eggcorn says thoughts on Huff's return. Yeah, what'd you guys think of Huff today? I didn't really isolate in on Huff. He was third on the team with 5 tackles, 2 solo. I'll have to watch the all-22 and get a better feel. What did you guys think of Huff?
I didn't really notice too much. I mean, he looked fine. My opinion on Huff is, I like Huff. His rookie year, I think people really latched onto him because he has the Palomalu hair and he's got the unique name, and he's a hard hitter and all this kind of stuff. And it's easy for, like, if you're national media and you've heard that name, and he had the picks early. He was like kind of a guy that people talk about as like, oh, one of the Niners' best defensive players. I think he's pretty replaceable. It's nice to have him, but I don't think he's changing the game or anything.
What I will say, though, is that the Niners, at least, like John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, they make it seem like he plays a big part in the communication back there. So I think that there may be like a cerebral kind of, quarterbacking of the defense that he's doing back there. I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly what he's doing, but at least John Lynch, who also played safety, thinks that it was super important. I remember he said that in an interview at some point during the trade deadline.
Well, Rye, Huff, because you've been covering this team inside the locker room, and you know what a great dude he is. I mean, Huff is a tremendous guy. I mean, he's one of those kinds of guys that, he's incredible. I mean, he's a salt of the earth human being. He plays for the right reasons. I mean, this is the kind of guy you want your daughter to marry. I mean, this guy is a first class guy all the way through. But if I were that aside, if I were ranking the Niners 3 safeties, I'd say Mustafa is my 1, Huff would be my 2, and Jair would probably be my 3. I don't know how you guys.
I agree with that. I mean, I don't think he was overly impressive, but I think he was good, and I think he was better than Jair Brown. I feel like Jair Brown has fell off a cliff this year, and Hufanga's trying to prove himself. He's got that veteran leadership, and you guys are right. Like, they love him. They talk about him. Kyle Shanahan in the presser tonight was raving about how just his energy, and how he was, good for the team and the morale. Like, his energy got everybody up. I don't think he played like amazing, but he made some big hits. And the fact that he came out there, played with the club, I think that energized the team. And they're like, oh, wow, he's out there playing with the club on his hand, making plays. I think that's what he brought to the game, just that leadership. He's playing for a contract these last couple of games. I think they'll give him like a 1-year deal, prove it type thing. Because Jair Brown, man, it hasn't been the guy we thought. I thought he was going to be this big playmaker. They dolled him up as this like big time force. He's going to be the future of the secondary. He's going to be the Fred Warner of safeties. And he's just not it. So
he's backslid.
I think Hufanga is going to save himself and keep himself here for maybe a 1-year contract type thing. But yeah, is he the best safety out there? Definitely not. Malik Mustafa has kind of shocked up those charts, like you said, Larry. So, but it was nice to see him back. I think he's a vocal leader, and it was good to have him out.
I'll say this about the Niners defense today. They did a really good job outside of a few completions to Roma Dunze. They did a really good job of keeping stuff in front of them. Like, it felt like every completion that Caleb had was like a 5-yard little out route, and the defense was behind him, and then they just swarmed to the ball, and it's just like a short completion. And the only times that the Bears could really get a drive going was when they were just able to keep doing that and get first downs and to sustain drives, and like the 1 or 2 drives that they really had. So I'll give the Niners credit for bending but not breaking, because that's what we saw a lot of the last 2 weeks was a lot of breaking and breaking. So
yeah. And so good for Sorensen. Sorensen needs a good night tonight. I'm sure he'll have a good night. Goldhouse is prorate Brock's pay for rain games. There you go. All right, let's finish with this. We'll go around the room one last time. Give me your game ball. Raj, who gets your game ball?
It's a tough one. It's a toss up, but I'm going to give it to, this is a tough one. There's so many that I can give it to, but I'm going to give it to the man who I feel like opened it up and was the key, was George Kittle, man. I don't think if you don't get George Kittle involved in this offense, they're not cooking. Like, Gendo had a great game. Jawan Jennings had a great day. Brock Purdy 8, but to me, it was George Kittle. Like, in the first half, he had almost 150 yards in the first half. Like, the guy was cooking. He's the focal point. He's the key to this offense. Get the ball in the Kittle's hand. Last week, the media asked him, you didn't have any catches. He was like, I'm open. tonight he was open and they got him the ball. I think it was George Kittle. He's my MVP of the night.
That's a good one. Rye, who's getting your game ball?
Man, I don't know. I'll go Gendo because I thought that. Well, obviously that was his best game of the year, but I also thought even running in between the tackles a little bit, he looked a little bit more comfortable. And I was really impressed that he like came out ready to go. I thought it was going to be maybe a little bit more of a running back by committee situation. And it seems like he's really taken to the coaching with Taylor. He looked great on the few routes that he ran. He looked super natural, like McCaffrey-esque, a noticeable difference from Jordan Mason, and like just gave him that extra juice they needed. Really excited for his future with the team. One thing I will say, I'm a little concerned. Maybe more long-term, but like Jennings is banged up for this Thursday.
What was his injury?
I don't know. People we saw him like limping off to the sideline. I don't know if there was ever an update about that, but he just looked a little banged up. He took a lot of hits. Raj, great call with Kittle. I worry a little bit. I think now that he's getting up there, he clearly is their best option. He's like kind of the focal point of the team. He's like the one guy when you get him the ball, like he still has physicality. But like you see tight ends like that take this much beating, they don't tend to last very well. And the Patriots, like when they were winning towards the end there with Gronkowski, like they would do the thing, and you see the Chiefs doing it this year, where like even though Kittle might be the guy that is the most reliable, he's like the Lamborghini that you keep in the garage, and like you only take it out like when you really need it, in like high leverage situations, or like come playoffs down the stretch. I mean, the Niners are already in that right now. But I was just thinking, they need it. They need to like rev up the engine for the end of this year. But I do think like going forward, they can't really ask Kittle to be that guy. I mean, he's clearly playing through stuff, and he's such a warrior. But it's a little bit of a concern.
Kev, who gets your game ball?
I'll go. I mean, I'll make it easy. I'll go Brock Purdy, especially in the game. I'm sure you're feeling a lot of pressure from people that said he needed these last few games to prove himself. I'm just kidding. No, I don't think you felt that. Also, it's kind of interesting hearing the Ian Rappaport this morning come out with the report that the Niners were like he's their guy, and that they're not worried about that. It's also kind of cool to have that come out before the game and then have him dominate. But I just saw Brock Purdy today, does what he does best. He just took what the defense gave him. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. The Bears were running zone coverage like the whole game, and they were just allowing George Kittle to sit in between these zones and just create these huge plays. And this is the stat today: Brock Purdy versus zone coverage, 17 for 22, which is 77.3%, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 10.3% completion percentage over expectation. He was averaging 15.2 yards per completion against zone coverage today. That's ultra efficient, and he had almost a perfect passer rating. Brock Purdy played a great game today, and he did it with without Brandon Ayuk. He did it with a Deebo Samuel who's not really all the way there. He did it with a third string running back in his first game since college playing running back, and he made them look like a elite level offense. So that's the quarterback that I want to pay in the future. So I'll give my game ball to Brock Purdy.
I'm gonna give 2 game balls. One, we talked about it. I talked about it this morning in the pregame. Today, in my opinion, was going to be a referendum on two. It was seriously about run the ball, stop the run. You had to run the ball at the Bears. They'd given up a bunch of rush yards. They did that, but you also had to stop the Bears running it. The Bears ran for 5.2 a carry the week prior against Detroit. And if the Bears had success running the ball, they would have had a very good chance to win this game. So I'm going to go with Evan Anderson on the defensive side. He had a fumble recovery. And when you look at what the Bears did offensively in this game, the Bears had 2 yards a carry or something like that. It wasn't very much. I mean, the 49ers absolutely shut down the Bears rushing attack in this game. I think it was right around 2.5 yards a carry. So I'm going to go Evan Anderson inside, the big war daddy inside. He was huge. I mean, he made a number of plays. I really was impressed by him. I mean, he just gets better and better and better. It's amazing. But yeah, DeAndre Swift was held to 2.7 yards per carry. That was huge. So I'm going to go Evan Anderson on D. And on offense, I'm going to go Kyle Shanahan. I thought this was Kyle Shanahan's best game.
Yeah.
I thought the play calling was really good. You have no CMC. You have no Ayuk. You've got a running back that's making his second start since high school. And you come out and run it 34 times, have offensive balance, took all, they made all kinds of plays down the field. They had all kinds of explosives. I'd say Kyle Shanahan had his best day, and Evan Anderson had a hell of a day. So I'll go Evan on defense, Kyle on offense. Those guys get my game balls. That's going to do it for us. We are 2 hours and 23 minutes in. We still have almost 2,000 people hanging out. This live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Kreuger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. So download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Also thanks to Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Kreuger Show. Also, check them out in Corte Madera and Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week. Also, thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles in Monterey or in Pacific Grove. Thanks to Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264 for all your sports cards and collectible needs. And we should mention that if you want to give someone you love some Kreuger Show merch, the link is always in the description below. If you're watching this on YouTube but prefer to listen, you can find us on any podcast app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, etc. And if you're listening to this right now on a podcast app, make sure you give us a 5-star rating and a review, and check us out on YouTube. And lastly, if you're looking to buy some 49er merchandise, we have products tagged below that you may be interested in. Buying those items helps support the show, and there's no extra cost for you guys. So thanks to everybody who has supported the channel, and we'll call it right here. Rye, tell people if they want to find you and they want to check you out and what you're doing, where they can catch you.
If you just want to see some really average tweets about occasionally the Niners, Warriors, a little St. Mary's basketball, you can follow me on Twitter. But other than that, I don't have anything going on.
There you go. And RSF 49ers, Raj, is pretty much one of the great content creators out there. But Raj, what do you do on a Monday other than hang out and say, you know what, how's that shoulder feel? Are you physical therapy only on Mondays, or do you stream on Mondays?
Physical therapy takes a day off on Monday. I got content to post tomorrow, baby. It's Victory Monday.
Richard Sherman podcast.
Yeah, Richard Sherman pod. We cooking tomorrow, man. There's a lot to post. I already got clips waiting for tomorrow, clipping up some content. So Monday is going to be a good day because we won. So there's actually some content to post. Be waiting for some updates. Obviously, the Kyle Shanahan little press conference he's going to have, call into that, hear the updates, get them all out there in the open once that happens. And enjoy my Monday. It's Victory Monday.
And we will stream with Raj Tuesday night. Kev, you got a final thought or anything you want to promote or tell people about?
Actually, this Tuesday we might not be able to do it. I told Kevin earlier. So I'll let him,
all right. Well, we'll work it out.
It's because he doesn't want to, Dad. That's why.
No, it's not that. I made some plans for Tuesday night. I'm gonna be at the SAP Center. I'll be.
Okay.
Sharks.
There you go. Little shark action.
Sharks game. It's. I'm taking my daughter to a concert, so I can't make it.
Who's going to the SAP?
Billie Eilish. So we're gonna be.
Oh shit. Okay.
Pretty good.
Okay. All right. There you go. Kev, anything else you want to tell people about the channel? We're cooking 50,000, almost 52,000 subs, or maybe just a little over right now.
No, yeah, I think you hit it all. I was just gonna say, check the audio feed, give it a 5-star if you're listening to that, and a review. That's all.
For Raj, for Kev, for Rye, for all of you guys, for Grant who stopped by briefly, for Danny who right now is saying, did Juan Soto get too much?
Really?
Do you think the Giants are interested? For all of them, thanks to all you guys. I'm just joking. Have a great night, everybody. Peace. Appreciate you.
Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you ask.